Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. And now that the auction 110 results are out, I wanted to give you guys my thoughts and my take in individual videos. So I'll make one for Verizon, one for AT&T, and one for T-Mobile. So this one, I'll start with Verizon. And as you can see very clearly right here, Verizon gets nothing, as you see in the title. So they walked. They did not participate. They didn't outbid anybody. They got 0 licenses. In fact, a person named Anthony Jones got more licenses than Verizon. I don't know what he's going to use it for. No idea. But, you know, he got more than Verizon. Again, that's not saying much. I just wanted to throw that in as a joke. But so what's my take on Verizon getting nothing? So I'm already seeing a lot of comments out there. Verizon's done. Verizon's finished. I've seen the internal UBS reports. They're saying T-Mobile further extends their spectrum lead. Verizon, AT&T left in the dust. So I mentioned this in 2 videos now, right? Be looking forward to later in the year for some announcements that are going to make this make sense. You're going to understand more why Verizon walked from this spectrum auction. And what many people have already told me is, why spend for small gain? Verizon was not going to outspend AT&T at this auction. It just wasn't going to happen. AT&T was going to do what it needed to do to take care of business. So, you know, what was Verizon going to get? 10 megahertz, 20, and potentially spend $1 billion or $2 billion? I mean, that's a small boost for the fact that the deployment engine right now of the C-band equipment is at such a high pace. They would have had to slow down and go back to all the sites again to deploy new equipment. It just didn't make sense for Verizon. To them, they looked it over, they analyzed, they ran the statistics. It just didn't make sense. So they will continue at the pace that they're going with C-band, CBRS, and then there's still that millimeter wave that they're focused on in a big way. So, and that's kind of where I stand with that too. So I understand where Verizon is coming from. They've always played the game with less spectrum in the last decade. They made it work. I know to some extent there is a larger issue that they are running out of capacity, or capacity constraint, I should say. And many are telling me that Verizon needs to take a more balanced approach. Spectrum is what fuels the wireless industry, and they need more of it. They shouldn't be spectrum starved looking 5 years into the future. So I think what's going to come into play is a big key word, and that's densification. I've been doing research on my back end at night, and I'm looking at densification of other countries. And our densification here in the United States, we still can't mimic the amount of base stations that they have deployed in Japan. So over the years, as we get different ordinance from the FCC and local municipalities, I think Verizon is going to further densify, even denser than they are today. And soon with repeaters and more C-band base stations, that's going to make more sense as to what I mean when I say we're not as dense as in like Japan and all those other countries. Because those countries, I mean, they are ridiculously dense. And they don't have the pushback as we do here with ordinance. They can deploy wherever they want to. Now, I do think there needs to be some input somewhere along the lines like, hey, this is too ugly, you shouldn't deploy this. I do think we need that. But if the carrier says, okay, we need to deploy this here, and we need another node 1,000 feet away from this one, then I think they should be allowed to do so in order for them to get the network and their technologies where it needs to be. The local cities are going to get the rent. They're going to get paid. And they're going to get paid even more with that type of densification. So I think that's something that Verizon is going to look into. I think they're going to bring... I saw it in an article like years ago that Verizon is trying to bring the RSRP down to an average of 75 in any given, urban market. Now that's very dense. That means you're going to be at 4 to 5 bars at all times. And there's going to be far less or way less of the 1 to 2 bar that you may see in your area. So in other words, there shouldn't be any reason in cities why you're dropping to HSPA or maybe 3G still, or you're dropping down to no service or 1 bar. That concern should go away with that type of densification. And I think that's a big focus right now on Verizon. In the 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year planning, they probably have densification in all capital letters on the boards. That's going to be a big deal and play a big role in this deployment. The spectrum, it did matter, and Verizon showed us that it mattered. That's why they went big in auction 107. They got an average of 161 megahertz. They bought 200 of it in rural to use C-band as IAB backhaul. So they're laser focused. They just think different. They have seasoned long-term engineers they're all in tune. They're all in the same sheet. They're saying, okay, this is what we want to do. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to use millimeter wave. We're going to use CBRS. And the C-band we got is enough. If there are areas that slow down or whatnot, we're going to build densification. So that's kind of where I'm at with Verizon right now. I'm not concerned. Verizon's definitely not concerned. On paper, it's going to look a bit different. Analysts are going to look at this different. They're going to say, well, T-Mobile has a insane spectrum lead. Then they're going to say 108 is all for T-Mobile. They're going to grow that mid-band spectrum even more. You guys, as the consumer, are going to say T-Mobile's getting greedy. AT&T may argue and Dish may argue it's not fair to competition. So there's going to be some pushback down the line. I mean, there's markets where T-Mobile can grab 100 megahertz of N41 still. They don't own all of the 2.5 in my market. They can get like another 40, 50 megahertz here. And I know there's other markets that they don't own. Just for an example, Maine, northern Minnesota, they own like 73 megahertz of that spectrum. So there's more. If there's more available there, they can grab more. They can deepen that spectrum. So if you asked me today if I for my guess on who's going to have the spectrum mid-band spectrum lead during 5G, it's going to be T-Mobile. There is no, in the future, outside of 108, there's really nothing meaningful in terms of what people are calling the Goldilocks spectrum in mid-band. There is no auction coming up that's of any significance, at least in that range. If we're going into 12 gigahertz and all that other stuff, I mean, you're going to have to further densify even more. So, let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. There's lots of info out there now. Like I said, I saw the UBS report, and everybody's drooling over T-Mobile's spectrum lead now, which it's important. Like I said, you got to strike a balance. But at some point, if you have enough of the spectrum, densification does matter as well. I think it matters in a big way. Verizon showed us that you can make it work with densification during LTE. They had the least amount of spectrum throughout that entire LTE era generation. They did. They had the lowest amount. They made it work. Towards the end, it was getting a little iffy, but you saw their churn. It never really spiked to anything crazy. It's not like they lost 500,000 customers in any given quarter because of that. So they made it work. They just made it work with this densification. And then after 2017, they went bananas on 4G LTE small cells. I mean, again, they just made it work. So let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. I look forward to reading all your comments. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Follow the social media outlets for more updates and interactions. Thanks again for watching. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.